Hi, here we are again for another Christmas in July card. Today we're going to be using this set from Pink and Main that has a little truck on it and a bunch of other little things that we'll talk about in a minute. And we're going to make this little slider card with a little tree on the truck. He slides back and forth. And this one says, sending truckloads of Christmas cheer. Now this is the second one I made. The first one I made I had a few problems with, and we're going to talk about that too, of how to avoid the problems I had. So let me get this camera flipped around and we will get started. Card, you'll need a 5x7 card base. And if you don't have pre-made card bases, that is a 10x7 scored at 5. You will need a print of paper that is a 5x7 because I'm going to cover the whole front of the card. And then you'll need a piece that is stamping that is 3 by 4 by 3/4 by 6 by 3/4. And then I have a background which is just slightly bigger by 1/8. So that will make it 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. And I'm using gold card here. And we're going to talk about this gold card here in a minute. And then you'll need a piece of white paper that is big enough to cut out the truck. All right, so the first thing I want to discuss is the gliders. So back in the day when we would make these cards, we always had to attach the penny in foam and glue it all together. And it would be very heavy and kind of bulky, but we do not have to do that anymore. There are now gliders on the market, and there are two kinds. Notice, I'm going to bring this really close to the camera. This one says sliding, and it has a line across the back of it. So this will keep your piece that you're going across straight because of the way these lines are cut here in the middle. It's not going to spin. Now they also have other ones for spinning, and those all have circles on them. See where this one has a line? The other ones will just have a circle, and then they will spin around. So when you're buying these, I bought these at Simon Says Craft, but I looked on Amazon, and Amazon does sell these now. And just search for gliders, for slider cards. And there'll be sliding ones or there'll be rotating ones. So just make sure you get which kind you want. I bought a package of both because I know I'll use both. And you just need to make sure the straight one is your slider will go across the card. The ones with a circle on them, what you slide across the card is going to spin as it goes. Yeah, so yeah, these are great. And these weigh nothing. So if you're going to mail a card, these are so much better because there's no bulk and they weigh nothing. They're just a little piece of plastic. And they fit in here perfectly. All you were going to do is slide that in this side. And then we're going to slide this in this side. And then it slides back and forth. Yeah. The only thing you have to do is measure for the kind that you have. Now for this brand that I bought, I need my opening to be 1/4 inch. So I'm assuming each brand is going to be slightly different. So if you buy a different brand, you're just going to have to measure the distance from here to here to figure out how big your opening needs to be. For mine, it's 1/4 inch. It's nice and simple, but I haven't checked the other brands, so I don't know. So that's something you're going to have to watch. All right, so we will color this in and make sure when you cut your piece out, and we'll go over that in a minute, don't lose track of that because you're going to need that. Now, let's talk about this mirror card. So when I made my sample, which is now over here in pieces, look what happened to my mirror card. It shredded on the inside, and after a couple of days of using it, it wouldn't slide anymore. I've never had this happen before when I made a slider card, but it happened this time. And I will tell you, the mirror card that I used was Crafter's Companion, and that was very disappointing that it did that. Yeah, so to do it again this time, the mirror card I have is Crafter's Companion, so we're going to construct the card a little differently this time, so I don't have to worry about it if this here shreds. Yeah, that was very disappointing, and I don't think I'll be buying that mirror card again, because that should not have done that. So anyway, that's enough of my soapbox. So let's bring in the stamps we're going to use. So the trees Bring my sad card I pulled apart. The tree stamp back here that I used is this Momento one. I don't know if Michael still carries this or not. I couldn't find it on the website, but your local Michaels may still have them in stock. But anything with trees on the back or mountains or any kind of background you want to put in the back will work. You just need some kind of landscape, something to put in the back. And this one is smaller than 5x7, but I'll show you how to make it be 5x7. And the car, this is the little car. This is from Pink and Maine, and this set is called Seasonal Truck, and this is really cute. Let's look at this for a moment. So it has the truck, but then it has pieces for all seasons. There's a patriotic one, there's an Easter, there's two Christmas ones, the tree or the ornaments. There's Valentine's, a fall, St. Patrick's Day, there's a summer one, there's some outline hearts and stars, there's some solid hearts and stars, there's a Halloween one down here, and then there's all kinds of sentiments. So sending truckload of, and then you can put Easter blessings, happy thoughts, Halloween's greetings, gratitude, summer fun, whatever it is that you're sending the card for, you know, you can put that in there. And there's even a blank one, so if you just want to put a truck on there for something, you can put a plain truck on there. And most of them are pretty straightforward, because if you look at the dies, the truck has a die, and the firecrackers would have a die. This one, you know, they all have separate dies, except for the one with the tree. So we're going to do the tree today, because that's the one that's a little tricky. So that's the one we're going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get started. All right, we're going to start with the tree, because there's something you have to pay attention to this when you do it, because you are putting the two stamps together in the one die. So I went ahead and cut the die out, because you absolutely are going to want to cut this die out first, because there's no way you're going to line it up without. So we have this here, and I left it in the negative so I can hold it down. I have a sticky mat on here, but if you don't have a sticky mat, leave your waste, hold that down, and put your your die cut in the middle. So the first thing we're going to do is the truck. So we're going to line up the truck with the bottom, and I'm going to slide this down here a little so I can line this up. So you're going to line up with the wheels and the bottom of the truck is what you're going to want to be lining up here. Okay. I will pick that up, and we're going to stamp it. And I'm going to use Gina K, the Obsidian ink that I always use. Now these tires are pretty solid. They're all, so you're going to have to make sure you get a good amount of ink on there. And you're probably going to have to stamp it more than once. All right, so now let's put the truck back. Get the tree. Now for the tree, let me move this, I don't stick my hand in it. You're going to want to line up this part of the tree with the stamp, and then you're going to want to bring down this part to overlap this part here. And I just smeared it, and that's okay. Is you want this to line up at the top of the window, and then, oh, I just moved it. Then this here, you want this and this to be in these spaces here. I think if you have these three here in of the right space and have it cut out and look at it, I think the rest of it should fall into place. So since this is kind of a little bit of a tricky one, we're going to pick it up. We're going to use the acetate trick. We're going to lay the acetate down. Going to just stamp this real quick. I am going to stamp on the acetate to make sure everything is lined up. So that all looks good here. That looks good there. That's all lined up straight. The tree looks nice and straight. All right, so that looks good. So now I know my placement is good. I can take this off, and I'll wipe that off later. Now I ink it for real. And you can do that with anything that you're stamping that you think might be a little difficult to line up. Just use your acetate because it wipes right off. There we go. All right. So there we have it. All lined up. All right, put this to the side. And I'll show you that your acetate does come right off. That's with a dry paper towel. I didn't even put any water on it. And it just comes right off. All right, now I'm going to bring in a piece of paper so we can color our stamp here. All right, so for the truck, let me bring my original one in. So I like the way this one came out. So for the truck, I have got E29, R17, and R27. So I'm going to start with the 27. I'm going to go across the top here. All right, now I'm going to put some highlight on here. Let's put some in. And I'm going to color. I'm going to go over the edges so it blends. And that was the 17 I put here. Smooth that out on top. You do these tiny little spots, barely touch the paper. And I like to keep the line I'm coloring against on top so I can see it. Because I'm left-handed, I tend to keep it that way. So it may seem a little backwards to you. All right, I'm going to put a little shading in here with the 2-9. And always, if you're using these sketch ones, the ones that are oblong, always put them on a piece of paper, a scratch paper first, because sometimes they need to be burped a little bit. And some people are saying that they are having them drip. I haven't had that trouble yet, but I only have a couple of the sketch ones. I have most of the chow ones that are round. I kind of like the round ones better. Just, it feels better in my hand. It's, you know, strictly personal preference. So we'll have a little shadow here, under the door, window. A little here under the tree. And I'll go in circles to blend that out. Over here you have to kind of a tight circle here. There you go. Here's our truck. So that will dry. So for the fenders, I'm going to use C2. So I don't really have a silver per se, but this is close. This is what I used last time, and it looks pretty silver. I did go over it with a glitter pen when I was finished. So I will probably do that again. And a doorknob. These little spaces here. Oh, and this part needs to be red. I'm going to make this the darker red, because this is going to be having some shading from the tree here. Now the windows, I'm going to use C0. The hubcaps are going to be C2. Alright, so that's all of that. Now for the trunk, I'm going to use E49. All right, now for the tree, I'm going to use G17 and G29. So I'm going to color the whole tree with 17. Some color down. Hit 29. Go across the edge. This is going to be darker in here. This will all be darker under here. And I'll put a couple just lines for shading. And then we'll blend it all in together. Next couple sections. Okay, so that should do that. Now, if you see on here, I put some glossy accents on here. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Let's see, this is clogged. Say clogs on me a lot. Let's see. Let's put a needle in here to unclog it. Let's test it over here. All right, now that I have it going. All right, so now I'm going to do the windows. Now, if you ever get air bubbles in with your glossy accents when you use them, the secret is to never pick this up until you are completely done. Once you pick it up off the surface, you need to go to the next section because you will get air bubbles if you go back into it. And I'll put some on the hubcaps. All right, now we'll let that dry. So So I may use this one that I colored first, because that may take a while to dry. We'll see. So that's that. So now let's move on to our background. So the background is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. Now to cut this piece out of here in the middle, you can do one of two things. If you have a die that is the correct width, you can use the die and just cut it out where you want your hole. If you don't, you're going to want to get a ruler with a metal edge and your straight edge knife. And I'd tape mine top down. It's coming loose. Now for this one in particular, I wanted the car to sit about here. So I measured it up an inch from the bottom. So I measured up an inch from the bottom. You'll put, maybe measure it from here. You'll go to one side where you want it. Put a line. Measure it an inch from here. Here. Maybe it's 1 1/4 inches. It's 1 1/4 inches. Put a line. Come down the other side. 1 1/4 inches. Connect the line. Then you want to go up 1/4 inch from your line. Make some marks. Connect that with the pencil. Then you will take your straight edge, which I'm not a big fan of the straight edge. You will not put it in your spot there. Line that up. Pull it down. Go to the other line here. Pull it down. And then you will connect the two that way. Now, if you don't want to do all that, you can go over to my website and go look in the Foldopedia and in the blog post. And there is an SVG for this with this cutout. If you buy the same brand and you only need 1/4 inch, you're more than welcome to do that. And then you won't have to use a straight edge either if you don't have a die. Now, look through your stash. You may have a die that's thin enough to do that. And then absolutely just do it that way. And if you, let's say you have a die that's this short, but you need it this long, put the die in, cut that piece, then just lay it next to it and just work your way down until you have a hole big enough for what you need. Now, for the gold piece underneath that shredded on me, I went ahead and just cut a big square, or a big rectangle out of that. So now, when I layer them like this, I'm going to have a hole here. So this paper that shredded on me will be nowhere near where I'm putting the glider in. So that should be fine now. So now when this glues on top of here, it will look like that. You won't be able to tell that there's that hole there. But this is heavy enough to give it some more support without having to have the problems. So that's what we're going to do. So now I'm going to put this back on here to stamp. And you're going to need this piece. So if you have trouble cutting it out and it is not, straight, just cut yourself out another strip. That's the width you need. And for me, it's the 1/4 inch by how big it is. And just slide it in there or slide it underneath because it doesn't need to be exact. You just don't want it to be white on the back of your slider. Now we get the stamp out. And so you can see where we're headed with this. Let me grab my original. All right, so I'm going to place this on here in the middle. And I think I started this just about 1 inch off the bottom. So I am going to take this 1 inch off the bottom. And we're going to stamp it from there. so this was green. So this time I'm not going to use black. I'm going to stamp it with the Gina K regular dye ink in dark spruce. Need to extend this. So I'm going to place this hanging off the edge here. We're going to pick that up, flip this over. That's the black. And we're just going to stamp down on this part. All right. Looks good. And don't worry about that line. Once we color it in, you're not going to see that. But I'm going to see if I can do it without the line on this side. There we go. Your hand on it so it doesn't peel off. Okay. Put it down. Stamp. That's probably good. And the reason why I started in the middle is because I like this little red ridge here, and I wanted that in the middle of the card. All right, so now I'm going to bring in the G17. That's what I used. And I am going to color in all these trees, just really, really quickly. Okay, now at this point I can go ahead and take this off because I have colored everything on here I need to. So we have powder blue and sea glass. They make a nice sky. All right, so I'm going to start off with the sea glass. All right, so let's switch to the powdered blue. And for this, I'm going to go around the edge. Okay. Now next we need to do the road. Now for the road here, I went straight across. That was okay, wasn't that great. So this time around, I am going to tear a piece of paper a little bit to give it a little bit more of an interesting edge. Bring this back in. So my road on the first one was about 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to do the same thing this time. I'm going to come up here about 3/4 of an inch. Hold this down. I'm going to grab the warm cocoa. Warm cocoa. I'm going to put my hand here. I'm going to put in a road. And I don't want it to be really even. I'm going to put it darker in here in the top. I may even take my black and just take whatever's left in here. Put a little bit of black in there. That should be our road. Here we are. That is our road. Now if you decided that was just too bumpy, you could take this and kind of even it out a little bit more. All right, let's see what that looks like when we put a car on there. Here's the car that's still wet. But yeah, that will look good going across there. Okay, so now the only thing that's left is what we want to do here. Do you want this to be a little bit of snow like I did in the original? Or do I want it to be like grass? So I'm thinking this time around I'm going to do some grass. So I'm going to grab green grass. I'm going to slide this back in here. And I'm just going to put some green in here. All right, so that is now all colored in. All right, so the other one is not dry yet, so I'm going to use my original. Now we have all of our pieces. Let's get it all put together. We need a glider. All right, so let's get some glue. First thing I'm going to do is glue this down to the card base. Now this will get glued to here. Now this, I'm going to need to use tacky glue. So I'm going to use what's left in my Pink and Main glue. And the reason why I'm using tacky glue is this glue will pull the finish off of this. And I know we're only going to see a little bit of it, but get the glue off my hands. Now we're going to take this. We're going to line this up. Smooth it out. Now, we shouldn't have any problem with this warping because we didn't glue anything to the back of it there. All right, so now this will go on the top like this. But first we need to put some foam on it. Now this needs some thicker foam. So a lot of times you see me use the 1/16. This is 1/8. It's thicker. And I am going to go across the bottom. I am going to go across here. We'll go across here. Go across here. Let's see. You want to make sure that your paper is laying flat when you put it on, so it doesn't pull on your paper. Oh, we did not stamp the greeting on this. That will be fine. We'll put this here. That should give me enough support there to stamp it. Okay, put this back in here. And if this doesn't come out, then I can always just put it on a little topper. So I'm going to use Sending a Truckload of Season's Greeting. Or, you know what, I use Season's Greeting on that one. I'll put Christmas Cheer on this one. Sending a Truckload. Christmas Cheer. All right, we are okay. Woo, all right. Don't do that. All right, so we have our card base, which is now dry. And this will get centered on here. Let's pull the tape off. Now, when you put foam down, it is a one-shot deal. So to keep that from happening, where you have a chance to move it around, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. And it's not because I don't think the glue is going to hold. It's just, I just want a moment to be able to move this around if I have to. There we go. Okay, so now our piece here, I am going to use this glue because I don't want it to warp at all. I don't want to put glue in it that has water in it. So I'm going to use the Clawell glue. You also want to be able to slide it around a little bit if you have to. So I'm going to line it up with where it should be. I'm going to push it into the opening and slide it into place. And stick my head in here for a minute. All right, now our glider goes in. We're going to put the one side in. We're going to pop the other side in. And now we slide. Now all that's left to do is to glue this on. Now this I can use tacky glue on. I think that might be dead. Take a little bit of that glue off. I think I may have gotten a little overzealous. I know, me, overzealous with glue. Now, I'm going to push that all the way over there. And I'm going to place this car on the road. Press down. Now let it dry. That's going to be the hardest part. Don't touch it until it dries. Just let it dry. All right, so we've waited 15 minutes, and now I'm going to pick up the card, and let's see. Does it slide? It does. Slides from one side to the other. Yeah, so I think that's a lot easier doing it that way instead of trying to put the penny and the foam and all that together like we used to. So yeah, so there you go. Here's a little slider for Christmas with a little tree. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you give it a try. Make your own little slider card. And if you like this, give me a like. And if you want to see the other videos for Christmas in July and all the other ones that I make, Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, stay crafty.